it's a perfect example. I use this a lot in teaching. It's an example of working with what you have, and trying to make the best of what you've got. So again, not pulling from outside or like what people have told you will work or won't work, but really looking at like, what do I have in this scene? So I'm going to assume most people know this movie and the story. But this is a moment where Marlon has just before this been trying to get rid of Dory. Like, she's in his way, she's slowing him down, he needs to do his thing, and he tries to ditch her. And in the middle of the that argument that they're having, where she's like, you don't want me, like this moment, these moonfish show up, right? This big group of fish that take the different shapes. And through that conversation, they find out about the East Australian current. And so this is the first time that Marlon really has a plan, like where he can go. So he is on a mission to get there. He knows he has to go this direction, but he's in such a hurry that he rushes away from the moonfish before they give him this final piece of information, which Dory gets. And they say to her, when you see this trench, and they kind of show like fish form, they show a trench. When you see this trench, go through it, not over it. And she says, classic line, I'll remember, bye. And of course, we all know she's got short-term memory loss and she's not going to remember. So they come to this trench, and just before this moment, actually, if you hold it for a second, just pause. Just before this moment, there's the trench and the two fish at the base of the trench, and Dory tries to tell Marlon to go through it, and he's not having any of it. It's dark, it's creepy, there's like skeletons of fish, and it's like, ugh. Here, there's a really nice moment where we actually change the screen direction. And this is important, and I'll show you why. Throughout the film, one of the things that Andrew Stanton had asked for was to use screen direction a bit like Lawrence of Arabia. And screen direction is one of the most subtle things you can possibly work with, but it's extremely effective if you use it well. And so he brought up this example of Lawrence of Arabia. And the thing about that is, I can't remember which way was which, but it's like Lawrence goes into the desert one way and back home the other way. But it's a story about him going, coming, and going. And our story was really about going the whole time, and then we kind of cut back. So it wasn't that interesting to just set it up that way. I felt like we needed to add another layer. So what I proposed back to Andrew was, how about this? When Marlon is progressing in his goal to find Nemo and to be a good father to Nemo, we'll go left to right. So Reef is on the right, Reef is on the left, Sydney's on the right, and we'll go in that screen direction. But when he does something that is counter to his goal, either it's an actual obstacle or it's something he does emotionally, like behaviorally, then we switch the screen direction. So he's going the wrong way, if that makes sense. And what's cool about people, again, is that they habituate very quickly. So if you show them a lot of movement from left to right, and then you change it right to left, we'll just feel it as like weird or wrong. And this doesn't have much to do with reading direction, though there's a little of that in the first few seconds that you see something. But when you establish this, moving left to right is a good direction, then when you show right to left, it feels like it's a wrong direction. So right before this scene, Marlon and Dory are talking. Dory's like, I think we should go through the trench. And Marlon's like, no way, we're not going to do that. And as they're having this argument, we come across the line and change the screen direction. So what was left to right becomes right to left, as you see here in this image. And the moment that matters there is that Marlon says to Dory, look, something shiny. And she turns around and she's like, oh, where is it? And he's like, I don't know. It's up over the trench. Let's go follow it. So he tricks her. He lies and he tricks her into going up and over, which we all know he shouldn't do because we heard the warning that Dory couldn't remember. But really, Marlon shouldn't have done it because he should have trusted her. And that's the point. So we come into this scene with the screen direction flopped. And then if you go ahead and play it, I'll just talk over it here. So they come up and at first they can see nothing but blue. So we've got this color blue, which is like, wow, clear water. And like, wow, look, the East Australian current. Then we show this one tiny little spot of pink. And it's a little tiny, forewarning of danger because it's going to sting her here in a second. And so we set up this idea, first of all, that this is a really tiny thing that causes pain. And also that's a little pink thing in a field of blue. And you'll see how the color, blue and pink, pay attention to it here. You will see how its proportion changes across the scene. Now we have no set. So as a cinematographer, this is challenging. We have no set. So what do we have? Well, we have jellyfish. So I was working with the number of jellyfish, their positions, the orientation of their tentacles, their body orientation, their density, across the scene to help tell the story. And the lenses needed to work in here as well. So in the beginning part of this, you can see now we've got about half blue, half pink. And in the beginning of this, we were working with mostly vertical and pretty straight, the jellyfish, and at a particular density that felt scary, but was enough room for them to move, because ultimately they're going to do this hopping thing here. So in this part right here, they're having an argument about how to get out. And Dory has this great idea. She's like, pick me, pick me. That's her idea. And she wants to jump on the top of the jellyfish. And Marlin realizes this is how they can get out. So he tries to set up rules. Dory doesn't want to care about rules, so she heads off. And now we're going to change the screen direction because they've cooperated and listened to each other. Now they're going left to right, and everything feels good again. So we can see here in Dory's staging her personality. And then you can watch in Marlin's staging his personality. So like Dory will go through something bouncing around, and then Marlin will go through it really straight, hit an obstacle, go around that. So we can express in the staging their personalities, and in particular, the change that Marlin's going through. So across these scenes here, he's moving from to be more like Dory. He's starting to play along. He's starting to have fun. And he says he's like, we're having fun and cheating death at the same time, And then he goes through this rush of pink to all blue. And he comes out, and there's the East Australian current. Yay, it's amazing. Until he realizes that Dory's not there. And then we have this like heavy, dense wall on the left. The tone changes substantially. Here we're now using much longer lenses to increase the scale of all of the jellyfish, the density, the sense of no blue. You can see now there's virtually no blue anymore. And to make everything as scary as possible. The jellyfish now are every possible orientation. Their tentacles are very fluid. So we have a lot of chaos in the scene, making it much more visually intense. And then he finds the one spot of blue, and he's going to go for it here.
Stay away!
Wick P. Sherman.
Wick.
42